Good evening. The trim, tan, svelte gentleman on my right is Mr. Truman Capote, or at least that the part of Truman Capote that was left when he emerged from the health club. Mr. Capote's weight may vary from time to time, but as you know, if you've read Breakfast at Tiffany's or In Cold Blood or his recent collection, The Dog's Bark, his prose is always lean and muscular and elegant, and his conversation is one of the certified pleasures of television viewing. Will you welcome, please, the inimitable Truman Capote. Truman, I'm going to throw you a curve by realizing that you're in position to throw me one. Take people behind the scenes a bit on a television show. Occasionally we have someone on the staff call a guest and make some notes and so on. And you did the unthinkable. You grabbed the notes that were made on you and read them in the green room. Now, since I make it up as I go along and don't rely on notes anyway, did you find anything in there that startled or shocked you? Are you sore? Are you willing to go on?
No, I thought it was fun. I mean, there they were lying on the couch. I just picked it up. And I said, Truman Capote said it's confidential. And I read it, and it was interesting. And the guy who wrote it, Mr. O'Malley, was struggling with me to try to get them away from me, but I wouldn't give them back to him.
You're not worried at all?
But I'm famous for doing it. I mean, I'm a menace when I walk into offices, especially over at my publishers at Random House. Everybody takes everything on their desk and shoves it under, because I pick up letters like this and I read them. Also, I have this great talent for reading upside down. So if they won't let me pick up the letters, I just sit there and read them upside down.
Oh, would you get upside down and demonstrate that for us, or?
No.
Or you mean the paper is upside down? I see. Yes, I knew
letters
what you meant,
lying on the thing.
Yeah. That's.
I just read it upside down.
Did you develop that in your years in espionage, or?
People who live by their wits develop peculiar talents.
Yeah. You said once, I think in Paris Review interview years ago, that one of the things about you is that your childhood made you tough, that you developed the muscles of a barracuda for swimming upstream or against the current. But I never asked you to elaborate on that. What was tough about your childhood that made you tough?
Well, my parents were divorced when I was about 2 years old. And I lived in, I guess 10 different homes. My father was married 7 times. I went to a tremendous number of schools. I mean, I was in one school and out of another school, and I left school completely when I was 16, and it was a very disoriented, I mean, I had to totally create my own life. I had to create myself from right from the beginning, and to hold on to your sanity. I mean, because nobody can get shifted around that much and through that many different emotional situations without developing an extremely strong sense of self-dependency.
Did you have you had no constant friends then throughout your childhood, because you were constantly whipped away from one place to the next?
I had one. Girl Harper Lee, that wrote To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes.
I knew her in Alabama, and we're the same age. We were childhood friends, and we've been friends always. I mean, throughout my entire childhood. I was the character in her book. In To Kill a Mockingbird, you remember the 3 kids in the book? Well, I was one of the 3 kids.
Which one?
I can't remember the name of the character. The precocious kid that comes every summer to Alabama.
Yeah. Speaking of friends, there's some question as to whether you have any now. As you know, you about a year ago you published a thing in Esquire, which is a little old hat now, but I've never really gotten to speak to you about it. It's a work of fiction.
No, it's not.
Well, it's not, is it?
Actually,
it's a work of friction, is what it turned out to be.
I published 4 chapters from that book. That book is Answered Prayers. I published 4 long chapters, and I'm about to publish a really long one. It's 130 pages long. I published them all in Esquire. And
I mean,
But in each one, you know, there was all of this comment about it because the fact that, you know, I am using real people in the book. There's no question about that. It is a roman enclave.
it poses as a novel, though. I mean,
Well,
it would be on the fiction
yes, of
shelf,
course.
wouldn't
Oh,
it?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fiction, but there's damn little fiction in it.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, the truth is, I only lost 3 friends as a result of as much of the book has been published so far. I don't guarantee what's going to happen later.
You're willing to go for 10?
But,
What friends did you lose? If I may be so
3,
bold.
3 friends that I really liked, and it was, they were very, very good, very close friends of mine, and it was, I felt unfair and unjustified, especially in one case because the person wasn't even the person, but their various friends talked them into believing that they were the person in this book.
Well, as you see it, what did you do wrong, if anything? I was at a dinner party shortly after the second episode came out, and your name was taken in what could be politely called vain. And it was as if you had committed the treachery of the decade, and all of these people, you were their friends, supposedly, and then you busily went home and wrote up their salacious lives.
Well, it's not true. I mean, it just isn't true. First of all, aside from everything else, I always told everybody that I was writing this book. It was not like I was doing something that, it used to be sort of a kind of a joke about Truman and his book, etc. I mean, everybody knew I was writing this book.
Was there some sense
people always used to say to me, am I in the book? And I used to say, not yet, but if you behave yourself.
And you led them along, did you? Well,
I didn't
I
lead
saw you
them
quoted
along.
as saying, do those people think I was around them all that time because I enjoyed their company? Was that frankness or a misquote? In other words, were you using them for writers?
I don't remember seeing the quote, but it's a little inaccurate. I mean, most of those people I was very fond of.
And
anyway, most of them are still very good friends of mine.
But you must have realized you were taking a calculated risk that you might lose some friends. And so the question becomes, is your writing more important to you than your friends?
Well, look, it's this simple. All a writer has for material is what he knows. That's all you got. At least that's all I've got. It's what I know. Okay, this is a subject that I know a tremendous lot about. The theme and subject of this novel and this world. It's mere people aren't. Now, I'm not doing anything that Proust didn't do. I mean, I'm not claiming that my book is as great as Proust or anything. It's totally different. In fact, basically, there's something rather similar.
Well, in Proust, of course, he didn't use the real names, although the people were recognizable.
Yes, but everybody in it was. But neither do I very often. I mean, just occasionally in an amusing way.
Yeah, of course. But the people in Proust didn't do such naughty things as the people in your book.
Are you kidding?
I don't think so.
Well, have you ever read Proust?
No, I just thought I'd say that. Yes, I have. I can't say that I got through all of what's translated Remembrance Things Past, but I read enough of it, I felt.
Yeah, well, I guess my people are I'm just a little bit more frank.
Perhaps you're a little more frank.
Or at least not so. He wrote it out in such elaborated ways. I go right to the point.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that clears that up, but I'm not sure. Truman, are you willing to talk about the fact the way you've been in the papers somewhat over the past year? You've had a booze problem, which you've frankly admitted in interviews that I've read, and so on.
I didn't have a booze problem. I had a tranquilizing problem. I was taking.
That's what it. Well, it appeared to be a booze problem.
I know, but that's what people thought. But that wasn't the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter was that I was taking a lot of tranquilizers because I'm an extremely highly strung person. And and always have been. And I had been taking these tranquilizers for over a period of 10 years, which is a long time. And it's not how many, it's the cumulative effect of them. I mean, these doctors that are handing out these Valiums and Librums as though they were popcorn, I mean, they're out of their mind. Yeah. Because if you begin to take them on a regular basis, it's not how many you take, it's how long you do, because it accumulates in your whole nervous system. And people thought that I had some kind of a drinking problem, but I didn't. I had a very serious problem of these tranquilizers, and I could not stop taking, because if I did, my whole nervous system just went, Well, finally, I'd become immune to them.
So you needed more?
Well, I mean, it would reach the point where, I was really immune to them. And so I went to a hospital because they realized there was no way I was going to stop this by myself, because I was just physically incapable of doing it. And I went to the hospital, and for 10 days and 10 nights I didn't sleep at all, because my whole nervous system had gotten so adjusted to this
Was this cold turkey?
Yeah. It was really an experience. And I was there for a month. But I got off of it.
Oh, congratulations. You blame the doctors for the liberal dispensation of all these drugs?
Well, I think that, people go to the doctor and they say they're feeling nervous or a little bit, and so he gives them a prescription for these things. I don't think they really realize how extraordinarily addictive they are, or can become over a period of time.
Psychologically addictive, if not the other way.
But no, it's both. But I mean, it's really extremely physically addictive.
When you had to be led from the platform at a university, was that
that's a completely erroneous story. At the University of Maryland, I left. What happened was that this was just a few days after I got out of the hospital, and I had a terrific nervous shock. Something happened in my life that gave me a great shock. And I was going to speak at the University of Maryland that night. And I was just in such a state of nerves because of this other thing that I had this tranquilizers. I had about 4 or 5 of them, and I took them off like this. Well, as I hadn't had any, and I haven't had any since. Yeah. But
the shock was too
big. It just hit me like this. Well, I walked on the stage, and everything would have been all right, except that the microphone was dead on the thing. Well, maybe 5 minutes doesn't sound like much, but to stand on a stage, well, with a big audience like that, with a dead microphone for 5 minutes, and all I did was I turned around and I walked off of the stage, and I said to the stage manager, when are those microphones going to be fixed? Because I'm not going to go back there till they are. And then I lost my temper completely, and said a lot of things, and I walked out. That's all there was to that.
Okay, I'm glad you've had a chance to clear all this up. Truman, you wrote a story as a kid that was a kind of what you called earlier roman à clef, novel of key, I guess. It was about some of your neighbors who were up to no good, and were there any repercussions at that point? Were you considered one who was retailing gossip at an early age, even then?
I was 10 years old.
Couldn't run you out of town.
It was really fun. It was, there's a paper called the Mobile Register in Alabama, and they had a contest, write a short story kind. So I wrote this whole thing up about all the people that lived on the street where I did in this little town. And I sent it in, and I won the contest, and it was published in the paper, and it really caused a riot.
You seem to enjoy a riot, even today. Was your family forced to move again? Or?
No.
Have you made a point of meeting your heroes over the years?
I don't have any.
Well, let me phrase that another way then. I know that you met André Gide and
He was
Cocteau.
never a hero of mine.
Ah. Have you made a point of meeting people you didn't like? Then, is there any way out of this?
Oh, well, I've been forced to meet some people I didn't like.
Have you found this generally disappointing, to meet the people whose writing you've admired?
No, I have a lot of friends that I like very much.
Why can't you fellows remain friends, you writers? It seems to me that people are always publishing memoirs about how we used to be friends, or Tennessee and Gore used to be friends, and Truman and Norman and so on, but these days they all sort of throw darts at each other from a distance. And are you?
Oh, Norman and I are very good friends. It's Norman and Gore that aren't friends, and then Gore's not my friend because Gore sued me for $1 million. It's already cost me $27,000 in legal fees, so I don't feel too friendly towards Gore.
but we always hurt the ones we love, isn't that the thing? He may not mean
Gore
it.
and I were great friends at one time.
He may not mean it personally. Maybe it's just in a business sense.
Yeah, well, he sued me just to be tiresome.
Well, I read something else. Cyril Connolly wrote a piece years back in which, when he was in New York, this is way back.
Get
and
Capote?
He said, I'm sorry?
Get Capote?
Yes, get Capote. That was he said that was the cry in every editorial office at that time. You had a first sudden burst of success. Has anything ever been as exhilarating since as that first flush of success that you had there when you were hot for the first time?
I didn't feel exhilarated back then because I'd already been publishing for 6 years, and I'd already had quite a lot of success. So, I mean, that all came about when my first book, The Voices, was published, but I mean, I'd been publishing since I was 16 years old.
So it didn't seem that remarkable to you?
No, I was ready. I mean, I've been writing since I was 10, been publishing since I was 16. That was 7 years after that. You know, it was a long apprenticeship, basically.
You've always referred to yourself as a stylist, primarily, and I was always taught that you can't separate style from meaning. Could you give us an example of who would be a writer who's a writer without being a stylist?
I don't separate style from meaning. I just, I hope the meaning is there, but I want to do it with style.
Yeah, but are there writers you consider non-stylish or non-stylists? Hemingway, for example, would he be?
He's a stylist.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah. Willa Cather's an author you're very fond of.
She's a great stylist.
Yeah. Who are the indispensable American authors for you if you were packing 6 books to take along?
You mean living or dead, or just
any
American?
American. Cather would be one of your top.
Oh, well, I'd have Olive Willa Cather. I like her a lot.
Some dispute as whether it's Cather or Cather. I've never been sure. In Nebraska, she's Willa Cather.
I knew her, and her name is Cather.
Well, I'm glad to know. Okay, I'll accept that. I assume she would be right about that.
I don't know. That's a very difficult question.
Well, that's one
Henry
that
James.
James.
Henry James.
Yeah.
Well, okay, then. My favorite writers aren't American anyway. I mean, on the whole.
So Proust would be one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah, he's a favorite of mine.
Say, Truman, that's a question that you should have time to think about. It seems like an early theme in your life started way back, crime. That is something I've never heard you talk about, but there was a girl you ran off with as a teenager who later...
The Lonely Hearts Killer.
She was one of called the Lonely Hearts Killer, and she killed 6 people, not while in your company.
No, she and her lover did.
So it was a sort of... like the case of the...
Well, I didn't know this girl was a criminal or anything. I was only about 10 years old. She was about 12 years old. She was visiting some relatives there in this town in Alabama, and she talked me into running away with her. I mean, it didn't take much talking because I wasn't too happy. So
You'd had all the fun out of Alabama?
I ran away with her, and they tracked us down in about 4 days' time, and I never heard of her again at all until suddenly I picked up the paper, and she and this guy they were called the Lonely Hearts Killers, And they had been answering advertisements in the paper from, you know, widows or whatnot, and her boyfriend was rather good looking, and they would go down and insert themselves in the household and then kill the people and rob them and whatnot. They were both electrocuted at Sing Sing.
Mm-hmm. Was that your first infatuation with, well, it later became a Sing Sing?
I didn't know.
Had no idea. About it. What had she done to entice you to run off with her?
I don't remember exactly. I was just fed up, and she talked me into running away with her.
Yeah. You never used that in your own work. It seems to me that would have been a God-given subject for you to write about.
Well, you've given me an idea. I'll put it into something.
If they made a movie of your life, who would play you? Who would you cast? I can't think of anyone who leaps to mind immediately, because I don't know anybody who's anything like you in any way.
Garbo. She's quite androgynous, and she's always wanted to play a guy.
Well, do you think of yourself as androgynous?
Her best, sort of. Yeah. Her best idea that she ever had was that she wanted to play Oscar Wilde.
Lord Alfred Douglas?
No. The, Dorian Gray.
Oh, Dorian Gray.
And she wanted to play Dorian Gray.
Why not? You know, women have played Hamlet and so on. Garbo wanted to play Dorian Gray?
Desperately. She tried. This was about 1948. She wanted terrifically to make a comeback movie playing Dorian Gray, which I thought was a sensational idea. I think she would have been terrific.
Was that when they were about to make the film and then Herb Hatfield played it instead?
Oh, no, this was her idea. I mean, I don't remember when they did.
Because there was a film made.
I know.
Quite a good movie.
But she wanted to do Dorian Gray. I just remembered her talking about him.
Well, that knocks my hat off. I never heard that before. Were you friends with Thurber as a kid? You were at the New Yorker when he was there.
Yeah, I knew him, but I hated him.
Oh, you hated him?
Mm-hmm.
Well, could you be frank about it? Was he not generous to...
He was a mean guy.
Thurber?
James Thurber.
Well, I know the one
Humorist.
you mean. But he doesn't... I guess we're talking about the same person, but he seems so humane in his writing. In this
I know, well, they all do, don't they?
Well...
The two meanest people I've ever known in my life were supposedly great humanitarians. One was Robert Frost, and the other was James Thurber. Both egomaniacs and both very cruel. Real mean.
Doesn't surprise me that Frost would have a dark side, because although in anthologies they usually print his most harmless poems, if you read the rest of them, he has a sinister side to him, and there's no doubt about it. What kind of cruelty would...
Thurber, he tried to get me fired from the New Yorker because he had a mistress.
Frost or Thurber?
Thurber.
Oh, Thurber, yeah.
Frost tried to get me fired, too.
Why, you make friends wherever you go. I don't know where... You're the answer to Dale Carnegie. You're the opposite. Well, what had you done to Mr. Thurber?
Oh, well, he had this mistress, and he asked, because, you know, he was blind, more or less. So he asked me to pick him up at this apartment where this mistress was and to dress him. Mm-hmm. So I stopped by there and I put his clothes on for him. And why she couldn't do it, I don't know, but never mind. Anyway, I put his socks on wrong side out like that. So he went home, and people at his house wanted to know why his socks were on wrong side out.
A fair question. Yeah.
So he got real mad at me because he think I did it on purpose.
And you wouldn't do a thing like that.
No.
No. Truman, you say you denied being a Southern writer at some point in an interview. Does that mean you don't want to be categorized?
No. I mean, what they mean by that is regional writing. Huh? Mm-hmm. Well, I was born in the South. I grew up in the South. Of all of my books, 10, 12 books, exactly 3 have something to do with the South. Yeah. All the rest of my books have nothing to do with the South whatsoever. So I don't I don't care to be
pinpointed on the map.
The regional writer. Not that I think there's anything wrong with regional writing at all. It just doesn't happen to be accurate.
Our younger viewers may never have seen an outrageous photograph of you that appeared on a book cover.
It wasn't outrageous. It was terrific.
Well, it created a bit of an outrage. You were supine in a hammock, it seemed, or maybe a couch, and you had golden bangs.
Yeah.
And you said that you consciously designed yourself in a way, your personality and your style and so on. Was that a calculated
Actually, that
move?
Photograph was entirely I just had a bunch of photographs in an envelope. I was in California. My book was coming out. I got a call from Random House. They wanted a photograph to put it on the back of the book. I called a friend. I said, go to my apartment, get this envelope out there. I had dozens of photographs in it. He took it over to Random House, and somebody over there saw that picture, which had just been taken very casually and not posed. You know, there was no point. It was just a casual picture, really. And they put it on the back of the jacket, and
it received as much as attention as the book itself.
Oh, far more.
Yeah.
In fact, the reviewers reviewed the photograph.
Yes. Truman, what was it? Would you clear this up once? You tried on an earlier show, and people still didn't know. Did you beat Humphrey Bogart at arm wrestling or Indian wrestling, or just what was it? The rumor is that you threw him over your shoulder, but you was...
Well, I did
only have 30
both.
seconds
The thing was, he was always... I mean, we were very good friends, but
Yeah.
he was always doing things to me, like, you know, punching me or
Does this
twisting
hurt?
but in an affectionate way.
Yeah.
And I said to one day, I said, Bogey, cut that out, stop it. And he just laughed, you know, in his way. And I said, no, I really mean it. If you don't cut it out, I really mean it. And he went on to do it, and so I just took him like this and put my foot back of his and pushed him back like this, and he fell and he sprained his wrist, and it cost the movie company about 9 days. I had written the movie. It was,
that was Beat the Devil,
Beat the
then.
Devil.
Yes.
Because he couldn't work for 9 days.
Well, listen, please come back and give us some more tips on how to make friends. And we're out of time. It's a pleasure having you here.
Okay,
and,
Dick.
Next time, if we can't get you, we'll just have to settle for Garbo, I guess.
Okay.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.
Bye.